Hello there. Welcome to another episode of Banking on Air. My name is Marcel Klimo and I'm the host. At Vacuum Labs, a solution-based tech powerhouse, we believe that the future is in communities when it comes to digital transformation and financial services. If you're interested in hearing more about fintech, digital banking or payments, please don't hesitate to subscribe. My today's guest is Mark Warrick from Cauldron, which is part of Thought Machine. Together, we recently implemented Thought Machine's core banking service Vault in Hong Kong. And we also wrote a report together on how to move into the cloud to make your bank future-proof. Definitely check it out. We also became official partners, so lots of fun going on.
Yeah, at Thought Machine, we're really pleased about the partnership with Vacuum Labs, co-working on the first implementation of Vault in Asia, in our case, Hong Kong. It's been a real success. So onwards, we're looking forward to our next project together.
That's really great to hear. And previously, I also recorded a podcast with the Thought Machine CEO, Paul Taylor. So if you're interested, definitely check that out as well. But right now, as we're talking to Mark from Cauldron, it's a division of Thought Machine. It's a creative lab. It's a place where new things are created, and it was spun off just to create those really cool, interesting ideas. And to start that off, Mark, when I was browsing through your LinkedIn, I noticed that you have very rich professional history, and it all starts off in the Royal Navy. Can you describe how that happened and how that led you all the way to Cauldron?
Yeah, so I joined the Royal Navy as a weapons engineer officer for my first 5 years. Very scary, being posted at the age of 23, helicoptered onto a warship HMS Somerset in the Northern Arabian Gulf to help protect oil platforms.
So what happened after that?
At that age of 16, it was sealed in me to invent. And it was because it was like almost a silly idea that I just worked so hard on, and then it became a popular idea. In the Navy, when I wasn't in operations doing training, bobbing in the Indian Ocean, I would be applying for patents and inventing things. So I remember vividly in the Navy obsessing in my cabin about heartbeat music. 15 years or so ago, I applied for a patent for your earphones to detect your heartbeat and then change the music based on what you're doing in the gym. I remember applying for a patent for a little lamp that changed the amount of light it gave out based on the ambient light coming in the window. And so that was me. I had to leave the Navy. I found my way into two different threads, really. Joined the city, but quite quickly set up my own business, my own creative agency called Kaboom, and never looked back. And then that creative kind of invention hub then brought me into Thought Machine and creating Cauldron.
So can you tell me more about Cauldron?
Yeah, so it's a lab. It's a creative team. It's engineers and designers working in a small team, only 12 of us. And we invent on top of our mothership company, Thought Machine's technology called Vault. So what we do is we're the creative laboratory of Thought Machine, have been ever since it started. And our job is to look at what the consumers might want out of a core banking engine in the future and make sure the core banking engine can do that. Whether it's true personalization of loans, whether it's game world for savings, etc. So that's our job. We're just dedicated to that singular mission.
One of your big goals is to bring art into finance. Why is that?
Because I think it's a space that is totally void of art, or it has been. You start seeing glimpses of it. And there aren't many industries left that are vacant of art. If you look at computing, it was beige boxes and megahertz and RAM stats for a long time. And then things came along like the iMac, a beautiful product, turquoise back, see-through, and it was a piece of art as much as it was. In the world of finance, we're still in megahertz and RAM. We talk a lot about APR. It's a war of APRs. And art doesn't really exist here yet. And when it comes, you start seeing the reactions to 4 million people who wanted Monzo, not just for the movement of that community and everything, but because of that bank card was a piece of art. It was a fashion item to have a coral pink bank card like that. And so that's what you're starting to see. These drops of art start coming into finance, and banks can start winning consumer war of market share, not through APR, but because people have a feeling or want to go that way for something they're seeing.
Yeah. So it's almost like in the world of banking or personal finance, we're still in that beige box era where we're seeing the sort of first examples of Monzo, or we're seeing Starling has a nice little visual. You're starting to see some of that more optimistic, playful, happy side of life, as opposed to just, well, how much money did you spend on your gas this month?
Yeah. And if you look at traditional banks, they have put put an artistic license around one aspect, trust. They always have. They've always gone, it's all about trust and heritage and things. And so you can see that in the way that they advertise and things. But that's where it stops. And like you say, some products can feel more playful. Some products should be sophisticated, and so they have a sophisticated art direction. But we don't see that at all. What we see, like you say, is the beige box UI, and this is what you're going to get. Here's your account balances. Here's your transactions. Why would you want anything different?
Yeah, you usually see a lot of blue because, and you see like these Roman and Greek columns representing Wall Street. And I guess for certain people, you want that trust. But at the same time, personal relationships, you don't actually build trust purely on everything being perfect, but rather imperfect. Life is perfect and there's beauty in imperfection. So it definitely makes sense to me. But a lot of conversations that I hear is, we should be moving towards this sort of Asian model of super apps. It's you have everything in a single app. You can live your life within WeChat, not technically, literally.
Yeah.
From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, you can do all your commerce within that single application. Do you think that is something that will happen in the West, or that will just not take off at all?
It's a really interesting topic to talk about, and it's something which we've been having quite detailed strategic discussions with our partner Us2 about this. What is really interesting about this is, of course, there is a model for super app. We're seeing that. But we're seeing banks, their market share get cannibalized by great individual apps like GoHenry for parents. There's got 1 million parents who are on there, taken away from Monzo's, taken away from high street banks. We see other apps like Habito, the mortgage app, is now offering its own mortgages, and that's taking market share away. It goes on and on. And what I think is really interesting is, what are you going to do about that? Because what they're getting right is they're not even well-known high street names. Habito, GoHenry. Why wouldn't you do your kids banking with a high street bank that's been doing banking for 150 years? And so I think, and Us2 think as well, there is a big case to say, do you know what? Super apps, the problem is you're trying to get all the same art direction all into one app, and you can't connect with that target audience. The reason why parents love GoHenry is because of it's designed exactly for that. Kids don't want to see a normal banking app. They need to see something a lot more fun. Some people like the art direction, the cheekiness of Habito, mortgages. Not everyone likes it, but some people do. Enough do. So what we're seeing is that maybe there's a future of a normal banking app, a PFM, personal finance manager banking app that you're seeing with your accounts and your transactions and everything else in there. Of course, that's there to stay. But there's also a future for that same bank, whether it's Monzo, whether it's a high street bank, whether it's Starling, to create mini apps on the side for those individual experiences, because that's what you want to go into for those individual moments. And then that helps you keep that market share. So it's a really interesting topic to debate. But I think as art starts coming into finance, I don't think it's got a choice but to start separating out some of these experiences.
Yeah, we started to see this about a year or so ago when we started to realize that it's almost a cultural thing in Europe, which is much more individualistic than a lot of the Asian markets, where we came up with this term, which we just randomly use, is this tribal banking, which is, it's almost like you're building these small little experiences for tribal communities, but not literally tribes, but tribes who have a common goal to achieve or a common problem to resolve, as opposed to the super app situation, which is much more sanitized or cleaner or simplified for streamlining your life as opposed to experiencing your life.
Yeah, you're going to go in there, you're going to do a function, you're going to get that function done, you're going to come out. But actually, I want to enjoy how I'm saving. And we'll get onto the topic of Game World later on. But if you want to save through play, you are not going to do it through that sterile super app interface. You're actually not even going to want to go into that, because if you are saving in a game world and you want to discover characters and do this, the last thing you want to do is open up your super app and start seeing your mortgage balance when your mindset is not in that place right then.
The thing that I really love about how you're approaching Cauldron and how this entire initiative is happening is you're essentially taking Thought Machine, which is a next generation core banking engine. It's almost designed to have multiple apps running, connecting into it. It's designed to be something that is multi-channel by design, So it's almost like you're saying we have this, but we as humans aren't really good at understanding what the capabilities of that are yet before giving you examples of it. You're almost there with Cauldron to say, open up your imagination. These are the things that can be possible with this technology if you dream big. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the hardest thing for people to do in the context of how they're using their money today, to be able to imagine what it would be like tomorrow. And ultimately, it's for designers to design tomorrow and then to say, hey, what do you think? Rather than asking the customers of today. And so exactly, Cauldron is there to say, look, hey, we might not have this, but in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, this is what you might see. But to help you understand it, we're not just going to show you a vision video. We've built it. Here it is. Put it in your hand. Play this. Take it away for a month. Tell us what you think. And that's one of my most important mantras for Cauldron is we have to build. And it can sometimes take us 18 months to build what took us a week to come up with. But you have to get people to use this, put it in their hands, and then they go, oh, I really like that. Or, oh, feels a little bit off to me. That's how we learn about what the future is. It's not cheap to do. You know, it's an expensive game, but innovation has always been expensive, but the rewards are great.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect segue to just talk about some of those things that you've done as Cauldron, because the first time I saw you was in Singapore FinTech Week, and there were only two booths that I remember that were just full of people. One of them was Razer, which is the massive gaming brand, which had their beautiful LED green booth. And then there was part of the Thought Machine booth that had one of your demo apps.
Yeah, it was Nestlings, which is the savings app for people in the future. So you've got little characters, you've got a game world. And how different is that when you say this is savings? These little characters are all discovered a little bit like Pokemon Go characters are discovered, but this time through your transactions. So you go about your life and little characters will be discovered. They start off with simple characters like very easy entry point, rounds up your transactions. But again, we've got a character that's rounding up your transactions, not just a function. Celebrate, who puts 50p away every Friday just because it's Friday. We've even connected to the weather API, which is a bit of fun here in the UK, but every time it rains, this character would put money away. There's a leaderboard. Wow, now we've got a leaderboard for how, who's saving the most, which Nestling character, and a level up at £5. Now, these characters, part of their story is that they're on that world and they get their nectar, they get happy around saving. So you can put don't save, but emotionally, you'll probably only ever do this once because you'll see these nestlings cry and they will get sad. You've got a bit of foliage which has grown through. We've got nestlings waving at us. They're happy. And so again, you're getting that feedback that you wouldn't normally get back. So you discover them, like I say, very much inspired by the Pokemon style of discovery. You've done a transaction. This character has arrived and it will happen real time. The character's called Grim and you can adopt this character or not. So this is the Lord of Nocturnal Spending and it happens because you're out late, 11 p.m. and you are spending money. So what Grim is there for, it's more of a fining character. It's going to fine you 75p for every transaction you do. So you can adopt that character or not. So Lumin, that little beautiful purple moth, puts away money every full moon. So every 28 days, Lumin will put £2 away for you. So you're activating to say this is how you want to save in order to level up. And then finally, it is the full moon. So Lumin wants to save £2 for you. You're going to say save. The £2 goes in. And then you're going, well, what's this new little environment going to be? And the new little environment is a beach world. And so now this is our level to up until £10. But then you've got the volcano world to discover, the mystical stone level, and lots of things over the 10 levels of the game. Lots of different things happen. And so there you go. Very different to normal savings. When you give that to someone with a Nestlings bank card and tell them, hey, go and experience it for a month, it's astounding the reaction of what you get.
So what sort of feedback do you get? Is this mostly children or do you focus on adults as well?
So the adult market is huge for it. They want to play it. It's how they want to save. And so, yeah, the feedback is, it's always, when can I have it? People going, wow, saving with gaming and proper gaming and Nestlings is really interesting. So yeah, exciting to be getting that feedback. And of course, we're just going to keep developing the product and keep demoing it. And hopefully banks will start taking on the fact that why shouldn't they look into game world and saving in particular? Saving should be fun. It's quite a fun product.
So is this meant to be as a demo or are you building this as a separate product that has a separate sort of roadmap and plan and growth plan and that sort of thing?
We always start them off as a demo. But because we're building them, you end up getting to the point where you go, actually, to build that demo out. So quite quickly, as you're building a demo, which you want to show after 6 to 9 months, you realize that you're not far off getting it into a production state. And so regularly with things like Nestlings, we've already got a UK bank reserving it. And that happens to us frequently. Our products, we're making them, and then to upgrade them into production isn't a crazy expense, given that it's had 18 months worth of work on it already. So Nestlings, yes, is now being built out ready for banks to license in different regions.
So it began as an experiment. There was really just the idea that this is something that we would like to see in the world. This is something that we're seeing progress bars and badges everywhere, but that's not really games. That's just gamifying something. It's not fun. It's just you're trying to make it fun. And at this point, you put so much time into it that it's ready for other banks to try it out within either their applications or a separate app.
Yeah, exactly that. Several of our products, they end up in the same place. Some of them stay as demos and we're like, great, that's a demo. But in some cases, like Money Monsters we'll talk about later, Santander bought it. They just went, right, we want that. And so we're frozen, locked out from using it now. And that happens. We're delighted when it happens because that's what we want to do, is to say to the industry, this is where it can go. I'll mention Nestlums quickly because it's one that actually we wanted to launch ourselves just because we wanted that experience of putting a product into market and practice what we preach. And the simplest thing that we could launch ourselves was the baby sister of Nestlings, which is Nestlums. This is for a kid, right? They've got their own little Nestlum character for them to interact with, a little bit like a virtual pet. The pocket money there is £18.50. And actually, we're trying to teach them about virtual currencies as well and the pitfalls of it. And so we're introducing gems to them right now so they understand the difference between gems in apps and real money. But it's actually a pocket money training app for young kids. So Go Henry is good for older children, but this is for 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old children. They can add a task in. And if they do that task, we put lots of interactions in. Hey, they're 4 years old. Use your finger. This is on a parent's phone. Drag it, tick it off. Now tap the egg. And they break open the egg. And now they can collect their coins and their gems and now see their Nestlums happy. But then do things like some educational games in here. But they can go into a shop and start spending their gems that they may have been awarded and start feeling like that transaction, even without spending real money. But then the parents going, hey, that's actually virtual money. That's not real money. If you want to buy an ice cream, let's go and spend the coins. And so this is a big differentiation that we wanted to teach children. It's way more exciting to go into these little worlds and to do these little things.
Is this connected in any way to an actual banking app, or is this just purely for the educational purpose and the parent tracks the money?
Yeah, so purely at the moment, that one for educational purposes, parent tracks the money. Now this is on the App Store. We've got it on the UK App Store. It was chosen by Apple as an app of the day, just been recently top 4 apps they love. And so because of that, of course, banks are now wanting to sponsor it and maybe upgrade it to be real money. But that's our job. We did it for ourselves to have all of that, practice what we preach, get a product in the market. And also we deliberately wanted to see whether we could make a product that would attract Apple's attention, because banking apps don't often become an app of the day. And they don't often get 4 new apps we love. And that is us talking about the super app side again, because we're saying, well, if you just keep ramming everything into your super app, Apple, one of the world's biggest markets, is not going to pick that up and start promoting it for you. And so it's another part of that jigsaw of it's the future, right? An individual app made just for that audience. And now we're on Apple's promotional trail. It keeps coming up on the App Store. And that's just free marketing to half of the mobile phones here in the UK.
So this isn't connected, but Nestling, I'm guessing, is connected into Vault.
Yeah, so Nestlings is the heavier one. That's connected to a current account and a savings account in Vault. And so it looks at your current account, looks at your spendings, and then moves money into a savings account. So a much heavier app in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, for Nestlings, it's not really needed because you're getting into issues like small kids can't actually have cards. You can wiggle around, but you shouldn't really be giving out cards to small children. So it makes sense within that younger demographic as opposed to like the Go Henry audience that you were speaking about earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned Money Monsters a moment ago. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so Money Monsters, an absolute project of passion of mine. And again, around pocket money, where I was desperately worried that children can't actually see the number without going to their parents saying, how much pocket money I've got? Like when you and I were growing up, we used to have coins and we count them. And in a cashless world, that is gone for a lot of children. They can't physically see their money. And I worry about what that means in the future, especially during curiosity moments. I would be in my bedroom and I just empty my piggy bank and play with the money. I could physically see it. A child who's curious about their pocket money now, they have to go to their parent and ask. And so they probably just don't. And so this money monster, you shake it, it had a tilt switch in it. When that tilt switch got a signal from you shaking it, it would then go to Vault, find out the balance, and it would put it on the screen. Way ahead of its time. We're just not seeing these really out there much in the world. And like I said, this one, Santander bought the rights to it, and I think you'll see this come out one day once the market's right for it.
Yeah. And this is beautiful because this is an extremely simple example of something. If you just think back a couple of years back, if you wanted to know your balance in your bank, you actually had to physically walk to a place, speak to a person and say, how much is on my account right now?
Yeah.
And this isn't that long ago. What is it? 15 years, 20 years that this was still considered very normal. So within one generation, we now have the capability to not only say how much is on my account or how much have I saved up, but it's a kid can shake a monster and the monster tells them. It sort of reminds me of a Furby from like the late 90s, if you remember. If you integrate this into a Furby, it will just tell you.
Yeah. And this is when we talk about art and you talk about the creative process. Look, you can have an app on your phone that is about kids' pocket money. Kids, they want a monster, right? I mean, you can't get away from it. They want a character. They love this money monster. All of the little accessories come off and they can make new money monsters out of it. It's ready for licensing. Like you could quite easily turn that into a minion, of course, and it's ready to go. And that's the important step. But like you were saying earlier as well, if you say to someone, oh, we're thinking about doing this and it's going to be something like it's a toy, until you've made that toy, until you've got that magic moment of you're shaking it and then you see the balance come up, you really can't gauge whether that is a successful product or not. And so you've actually just got to make it. And I'll talk later about the focus group side of things. And in this world of experimentation, focus groups just don't work. You've got to give it to the real product, to the parent at the end and the child, and see what happens.
I have a fairly controversial question. Have focus groups ever worked other than giving it to people who would actually be the end users?
I think there's a good place for them for iterative and involved design. So at this stage, once the money monster's done, they work because now I can get focus groups sitting around and talking. I think you're right. No, but giving 10 of these out and focused customer testing over a month. How was it? Where did you put it in the house? Did it stay in the bedroom? Did they ever take it downstairs? Did they ever want to take it to school? That is like gold. But you can't get to that until you've got the product. And so, yeah, I think you're right. Actually, that whole sitting around 10 people and doing a focus group like that, I don't think so. Not for this type of product. Probably for some sort of other type of research in different industries.
A new drug for something, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah. A lot of this has been focused on things that people would traditionally consider focused, although I think this might not be the case. Like for myself, I'm a bit of an outlier because I game daily to this day into my 30s, and I'm weird for many, but not for others. But we're seeing people like you're going on the underground, you're going in a bus, people playing games on their phone all the time. Have you done things that are less immediately game-like or less immediately kid-like?
Yeah, definitely. So it's another key area. And again, we spent a couple of years now live in the market. It's called Silo. All our team's design. A wonderful company called Killick & Co., a wealth manager, wanted to bring their wealth expertise to the masses. So Killick & Co. is for high net worth, but bringing all of that experience to the masses. Around 35% of that whole UI is art. The more you save, the more resplendent and beautiful that piece of art becomes. And the less you save, the more it dies away, a little bit like a virtual pet in a sense. So this is a product of sophistication, right? It's a product that is designed to be very different in that sense. And all those little orbs move slowly. And the design of that is you don't want them moving too fast. This is your saving and investing. So it's got a lot of consideration around momentum, control. But this product, people who use it, it's live now on the app stores. They love it. It's got a sense to it that is a different art direction. It's also clever. That's connecting to my bank account and working out how much I can save on that day. So it's got a clever algorithm in there that works out recurring spending, works out how much I might be able to afford to save. Being quite aggressive on mine there at the moment, but I've deliberately doubled up what it was going to do. So there you go. There's that side. But then also Vault Rare, which is very different. Vault Rare is a totally different product and is loan personalization. So something I'm equally obsessed about with gaming is back in 2016, I bought a pair of Nike ID trainers. You remember, you can customize them, you make them your own. And so back then, it just came to me like a flash, and I ran into the studio and said, oh my goodness, imagine if we could design a loan just like I've designed these trainers. Imagine if we were able to have 100,000 customers out there and they've got 100,000 different little loans that are configured for them. Personalized banking. Banks sometimes say it exists, but it doesn't. You'll have 30 million customers and you'll have only 5 loans for them. And that's not personalized. Another thing that a bank would do is go, oh, you want to go from 24 months to 42 months? Fine. But this is where it gets really interesting. Most banks choose, oh, you can pay back monthly. But what we say is, what about if I want to pay back every week? What about if I want to pay back every day? Okay, you can do that. It's one parameter. So now, because we've got monthly, weekly, and daily repayment structures, we've got 3 times more loans than any other bank straight away. So what else can we do? We can edit our loan further. Supposing you've got a 5-year loan and you decide you want to take a repayment break in the middle for 6 months. You can. This is the demonstration version. You could work out where you'd want to take that repayment break. You can make it 5 months. As you're taking a payment break, the APR is changing. As the consumer, you're in charge of that. You've decided you want a repayment break for 6 months. You're happy to pay more APR because for 6 months, you don't want to be paying that £247. Immediately, the number of loans that can be configured, you've completely changed it. And so that becomes personalized banking, because I've just shown you some personalization configuration features. A bank can add in whatever they can dream up, they can put into that product, because we've got this feature within our contracts that are in the heart of Vault called parameters, and you can just keep loading those parameters in. You're still in control in the bank of what the end product is, of course, because you've actually just got a few different APR, different types of products sitting there. But a customer has got the world in front of them of what they're changing, and then seeing the result of the cost of their loan changing in front of them.
I'm somewhat like in disbelief and shock why more banks aren't doing this, or why this isn't happening.
Look, I think, like we said earlier, it's one of those industries which is just entering this world of art. Computing existed for a long time before we really saw the art come through. Like I referenced earlier, the iMac G3, that's quite late. It's a lovely machine, but it's not really beautiful. You know, it's very brawn, if you like, which has obviously got its own beauty. But in terms of fashion and art and exploding out there, the G3 took a long time. We're in the world of finance. It's money. It's quite a slow movement environment anyway. So my theory is that it's happening. You're going to start to see this happening. And it's not that expensive for an avatar like that to happen. It's just having that leap of faith that fashion and art is going to help you win consumer market share. And the banks that start doing it first will start seeing it happen, and then others will follow.
So you said it's not that hard. So what sort of technologies would a bank or a fintech or institution like this need to get to where you are with either Nestlums, Nestlings, Bolster, and others?
They don't need much. I mean, it's about the leap of a design team that is doing that. Okay, so I think there's a very different type of design team that does a super app design versus this type of design. It's almost, you need a design team that's done Monument Valley, a design team that is working with the likes of Facebook, with the Go-Go bots that they've just launched, all of that sort of stuff. That's the sort of design team you need. So it's about people, yeah? But then in terms of the technologies, it's Cinema 4D. It's obviously Adobe Creative Suite. It's Blender, a lovely 3D tool. Then in terms of getting that into an interface, Unity is the place, and it's harder to do UI well in Unity, but you get all of the art benefits of it. And you're starting to see some wonderful creative packages coming out for the likes of iOS and things. It's not going to be long that you'll have to rely on Unity to get the results that we're starting to see with. You wouldn't be able to do that with Nestlings and things, but certainly what I've shown you with Reducer, that skin reducing, with Vault Rare, with its avatar like Flubber, like you said, that, I mean, they can be done in the native world, no problems. But it's about the leap and doing that. And for me, it's about associating your brand with it. So when Santander bought out Money Monsters, it was great because they realized that 95% of that brand was Money Monsters. But then the trust came from this little bit that was brought to you by Santander. And when we did all the testing, that's all that the customers needed was like, oh, so who's behind it? Oh, it's Santander. But you don't want Santander's whole brand over that that product, right? Because it's money monsters.
I guess a large part of that also is the capability of the bank to have the APIs like Vault. We as Vacuum Labs, we're an engineering company. So a lot of what we do is we integrate like these disparate parts of banks or fintechs to try to make them work together and really put out a nice app forward for the client, because you don't want that client waiting a day. You want to inform them. So a part of that really is having to somehow modify the backend, right?
Yeah, look, I think a big reason, and you've absolutely hit it on the head, the reason why banks and even challenger banks haven't been doing this today is because of legacy banking tech. We all know it. It's not like there aren't people in these banks that have got these ideas. They have them. But like I said earlier, the idea, it takes a week, and then 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. It is such an effort to get things out there. Now, the legacy banking tech stops you from doing that. And these days, over the last 5-6 years, we're seeing a big change as that isn't the case anymore. And most banks in the world, one of their top 10 initiatives is replacement of core banking. So it's an enabler. And I think the reason why we're seeing more experimentation coming into banking is because there's the confidence to experiment, knowing that now they can actually make that happen. And absolutely, you need that technology base there. So bankers have always had this. There's no point inventing anything, because whenever we go, oh, can we get that real time from the legacy core? No, you can't. To your point, I think this industry, it's being woken up artistically because we've now got the technology to be able to do these things. So absolutely, it's a huge impact moving on from the legacy banking tech. And I think the important thing is with all of these projects, there's a high risk they'll never get in the market. They'll never make it. But that's the price of innovation. You've just got to keep doing it and good things will come. There is a lot of lessons learned from world-class design studios out there where they just kept going, and it was relentless with invention and ridiculous failures.
So from your experience, something that you can share, the mistakes that you've made or the things that you've learned that you can share that others can benefit from?
I think the biggest thing is, a lot of people say it's around the resilience around failure. There's been a lot of things in the studio where we've just had to, with heavy hearts, just go, we need to stop. And we've got to stop because it's just not going to do it. I made a huge decision to get half of our studio working on what's called Codename Rama. And Codename Rama stops a lot of other projects, but I need it as a backbone. And it's our first internal bank, if you like, model bank, so that I can then start showing inventions on top of that. And it's actually very much the saying, if super app isn't the future, this is the future. If we're going to say that we want to show the industry what the future of banking might be like, we've got to show them in entirety, not just with singular apps. We've got to show them how it all comes together. So, a lot of lessons there. And I think the other lesson that I would say is some ideas in that first week where you're coming up with them and that 1% inspiration moment when you've got 99% perspiration, you just got to keep them to yourselves for quite a long time and not show them. Someone I used to work with called it a baby tiger moment. It's just not ready. And you have to spend months in isolation, quite lonely in your team, making something that you just don't talk about until it's ready to show. And so there's a lot of psychological side to a creative studio to be successful. And I know that's quite generic, but there's big lessons there. And in banks, I imagine with all of the structure, there might be a lot of traffic going, so what are you working on? It's been 3 months. What's the lab come up with? You just can't do that. And I don't have any of that in Thought Machine. I've got pure, complete freedom, complete leadership buy-in, board buy-in, finance. It's all the elements that you need to make it right.
And there might not be an answer to this, but how do you know it's ready?
Very interesting. I think it's a team moment to say, let's take it out of the studio and start showing it. But you're right, it's very different for every single project. And yeah, it can suddenly be shot down. And so I think you need to, like that baby tiger moment, you're like, can it fight for itself is the thing. Can it survive out there by itself? Or is it weak and it's going to end up getting gobbled up and it wasn't really ready yet? Yeah, very hard to answer that, like you say.
So either Nestlums, Nestlings, Bolster, and others, almost none of them had like traditional badge progress bar structure with leveling and that sort of thing. I guess it's hidden under the hood, but is that an intentional choice?
It's a common mistake when someone or an industry says they're going to do gamification. What they do is they go for the game mechanics. They go, oh, leveling. Oh, progress, badges. And what they forget, and this isn't to make it sound derogatory, but just in general, what's forgotten there is what makes Pokemon successful is the characters. No one's going to go and want to hunt around Pokemon if there's no characters. What makes World of Warcraft successful is the universe, the story, and being able to explore that. Game mechanics, they just won't succeed. It's going to dry up very quickly, and you've got to have something to buy into. And the reason why we like escapism and why gaming has become such a massive industry is because of the escapism of characters, story, everything else. And I think in our money, we need to escape a little bit. And at the moment, we're just told, there's your number. Go into your banking app. This is one of my pet hates with banking apps to solve in general is I want to go and pay a friend. So I go into my banking app and I'm immediately presented with all my accounts and my mortgage and my loan. And I wanted to just go in and pay a friend, but you've just now told me things that I didn't really need to know right now. It's not what I wanted. And yes, the big thing is immersive and it's about the avatar, and why not? It's a silo, it's saving and investing. It's got this beautiful solar system. That's important. And you're investing in that as much as a level or a badge or anything else you've achieved.
Yeah. A friend of mine here in the CEE, he's a founder of one of the local marketing agencies, and he started a couple of businesses. And anytime I speak with him and he's talking about a new client that he's working in, he's always trying to figure out a way of getting some form of mascot or avatar into the marketing, whether that's a funny animal or something that represents the brand. And he's done this with multiple businesses. That really reminds me of what you're saying here. It's like you're not trying to force the mechanics of fun of the brand, but rather you're trying to implement something that represents the brand in a more human, more...
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think we can deny it. We said earlier, children want to see monsters. We relate to characters a lot, and brands, when it comes to consumer marketing, characters do win a lot. You look at EDF with their little creature on the side of vans and things, it's endearing, and there isn't a connection that we have with that. And so when it comes to the game side of things and saving through play, if you're going to play, that play can't just be a UI that's just a progress bar. You've got to play something. Hey, I've got a character. Oh, wow, they're in that little world there. How can I make the world a little bit tidier for them? And it doesn't matter where you're from, what age you are. If you're into that gaming side of things, you'll be into that.
Yeah. What would you say if somebody just said, this is for kids? I don't believe this.
Yeah, they're the same people that say they don't play computer games. And that's fine. And that's my point, is that there is an app for every different type of market. And Game World Savings is only really for people that like that sort of thing. And as we know, there are a lot of gamers out there and they like that side of things. Some people will prefer Silo, of course, when it comes to saving, because it's a sophistication. It feels like it's in control and everything else. Some people might like Nestlings. Some people might like a very different type of app. This is the point of the conversation around Super App, is if you try and keep making every single experience this bland UI, you don't really excite any market. And it's a bit like going down the high street and choosing coffee. If we all didn't care about coffee, there would only be Starbucks. But there's not. There's independent coffee shops. There's this, there's that. And there's a time and a place to go to your user interface and want to do something, go and get a Starbucks. But there's also a time and a place to just go into a really lovely coffee shop and have a very different experience. But at the moment, what we're doing is we're just going, no, you just want this. So yeah, my answer to that is that's the market.
Beautifully said. So people listening to this now, they're potentially decision makers. They're potentially people who would like to see something like this being built within their organization. Can they come to Cauldron and say, we have ideas, or we really like Nestlings and I think it really fits in with our brand here? Can they come directly to you, or are you more of an idea house for Thought Machine?
Yeah, no, they can. And that's the point of creating the Cauldron brand now, is to say it's to reach out into the market. Regularly, we get inbound traffic saying, hey, I really like this concept that I've seen on a podcast or seen in the exhibition that you did virtually last week. Is that available? We're always open to that side of things. I think the thing that we don't do, and this is why we are partners with Us2, is when it comes to getting a project out into the market at scale, into production, Cauldron, it's got its alchemy of people. It is an invention hub. It makes things, and then it says, if you want them, there are routes to market and you can take all the assets and buy the concepts, but you need to work with the right teams to get these things productionized, because it would just wipe out our whole team and then we wouldn't be able to invent.
So it's quite literally a cauldron.
Absolutely. That's why we chose it. Yeah, everything goes into the cauldron. There's magic there. And no, we really enjoyed coming up with that name. We all laughed our heads off when it was mentioned. We're like, oh, we just got to do it. And also something for the future. It won't be long now. Everything that we're building, nestlings, Vault Rare, we've realized over the years that we've made something common that means all of those can be actually realized. And so that common interface is a channel. We're calling it Rendezvous, and it sits on top of Vault. And that's actually innovation tooling that we're going to start offering out to agencies, bank innovation teams, so that they can get the ground running just like we're doing at the moment with nestlings, etc.
Well, Mark, I'd just like to thank you for bringing this into the world, because it really needs it. It needs to rejuvenate, especially now when we're all very distant and we're not with each other and we're working from remote locations. Having this sort of art in this world is magical. It's really wonderful. So if somebody wants to either reach you yourself or reach Cauldron, what's the best way to do so?
So I'm really hot on my LinkedIn. I always get back. A lot of people talk to me via LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Mark. We also had a podcast with Paul Taylor. You're the CEO of Thought Machine, where we talk deeper around Thought Machine. So that might be an interesting thing for others to hear. But I really thank you for today's conversation, and I hope we can speak soon.
No, absolutely delighted. And thank you for having me on. It was an absolute joy.
Thank you for listening. If you liked the episode, please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, review, download, or share it. My name is Marcel Klimo, and I'm from Vacuum Labs, and we'll be back soon with another episode that will give you new insights into digital banking.